Awesome. All right, ladies, we'll go ahead and get started because this month, oh my gosh, we are so honored. The first book club since 2005, and we have the author of the book we are sharing and discussing this month with us. So we're ecstatic. So anyway, this is Women on the Move Book Club. It is Thursday, October the 7th in the year 2021. 100 years from now, that'll be important because I'll say, oh, when were these ladies alive? When did this happen? And we'll just be famous ladies. And so that's why the year 2021 is important. So I'm Cindy. We've got Pam with us. Wave, Pam. We've got Tammy. We've got Sharon. We've got June. There'll be a few latecomers, but we have the author, Judy Billingsley. Should I say Judy Fambrough Billingsley with us?
Yes. Yeah, awesome. That's fine.
Awesome. So I'm going to turn it over to Pam so she can, this is her book club this month. So I'm going to turn it over to Pam so she can tell us the book and then how it came to be with our author being with us. So Pam.
Thank you.
Okay. The book Too Brown to Keep, I saw it. It was in, I think, the California when you had your first book signing at the coffee shop here in town, but I wasn't able to make it. And then COVID hit. You were going to have a second one at Barnes and Noble. And then because of that, we didn't have it. So, but I've read the book anyway. I read it twice. And I thought, wow, what an awesome book. I think we need to do this because we like sharing different books. So and then I contacted you because I read books before and emailed authors and asked them, how did you come up with this subject and what made you choose this? And they responded. So I said, well, she's an author. I'm going to write to her and see if she'll join us. And that's what I did. And that goes all of our communication to get you here. But anyway, that's my thing. And I did really enjoy the book, Judy, because there are a lot of people that have gone through something similar, not maybe as like you coming from another country, but I think they should all read this because look at you, you're very successful, you found out who you are, what you are, it didn't stop you in any way in becoming that. I think your Joe and Marie Fambrough were awesome. When I read about him and the things that they went through here and what they instilled in you, I remember my parents talking to me the same way, you know, how to navigate and negotiate in the world and stuff. And I think that's very important. So I try to pass that on to my grandchildren also. But anyway, I'll let you have the floor and go ahead because I can talk.
Thank you, Pam. I appreciate it. And I appreciate you having reached out to me and Cindy as well. And it's been in the making as far as, you know, getting here. And I'm excited to talk to you ladies. What I'll do is I'll just kind of, I have a PowerPoint presentation that gives you some pictures and I'll talk through an overview of the book. And I do have some slides on actually talking about if you want to trace your legacy, what does that look like? And if you want to publish, what does that look like? And then we'll certainly open it up for questions and answers, okay? So let me just do my sharing of my screen. Yes.
I can't hear you guys.
We can hear you.
We can hear you, Melody.
Okay.
Turn up the volume on your computer, Melody. Maybe you have it on mute.
Okay, I just want to make sure I'm sharing my screen here. Okay. Hang on. Let's say share. Share the entire screen, yes. Okay, let's see if I can get it going here. That's my only thing. Here we go. Let's see. Can you?
We can't see your screen yet.
Do you see my screen?
No, not yet.
Not yet. Hang on. Okay. I think I have to hit the share button.
Yes. That would surely help, Judy.
Okay, can you see my screen now?
Yes,
Yes,
we can.
yes.
Okay, I'm gonna make it larger. Hang on. Okay, you see my
There we
screen
go.
now?
Yes,
Yes.
perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. It was just a little bit different buttons I had to push there. All right. This is the information, and I certainly have a Facebook page and my Instagram, as well as this is my author page. I have a personal page as well, and this is my email. So if you have any further questions, you're certainly welcome to contact me. My memoir is about me and about me growing up. And so I want to trace back some history, which I certainly needed to do. And that was about children who are left behind during World War II. And so World War II began in 1939 and ended in 1945. The United States got involved in World War II in 1941. And so with every war, all wars bring about children by occupied soldiers who are there. And so in Europe with World War II, there were 37,000 occupation babies. My sister and I were a part of the 5,000 occupied children in Germany. This is a picture of my birth father, and was an American soldier, and my birth mother, who is German, and Elsa is her name. And so I was born shortly after World War II. I was born in 1950. But World War II is unique because it was the first war in which children, we were born in Germany. We were German because we took our mother's citizenship, and I have a German birth certificate. However, it's a unique war in that Germany and the United States saw us children, occupation children, they saw us as a problem. And America didn't want us, and neither did Germany want us. And so when you look through the papers and do the research and all of that in regards to occupation babies, they don't talk about brown babies, but us being biracial, with that means African American soldier father versus white German woman, we began being labeled as brown babies. So this is a picture of my birth mother in the flat in Germany in a village called Bingingheim. This is a picture of my birth father and mother on the wall. This is a picture of my sister. This is my sister Helga. She has a different father. This is me. It was taken in 1950. As you can see, I was born Uta Schaub. And this is my sister Joanne. She was born Imgard in 1947. So it was the three of us that lived together with my birth mother, Elsa, in Bingingheim, Germany. And my birth father, whenever he had an opportunity off the base, he would come to the village. This is a picture of our village church in Bingingheim that still is there today. Actually, this is a modern picture of the church. And so one day, being in the village and playing with some friends, one of Elsa, my birth mother, one of her adult friends walked my sister and I down to this church on this exact lawn. And my sister and I were playing, and a black Cadillac came by, and we were picked up and put in the back seat of this black Cadillac, and literally we were driven out of the village, and we never saw our birth mother, our babysitter, our friends, anybody in that village ever again. We were driven for the 2-hour drive to St. Joseph Kinderheim in Mannheim, Germany. And this is a picture of the modern look of St. Joseph Kinderheim. It still exists today. And I doing my research in Germany, had the opportunity, and I talk about sitting on those very steps. If you've read the book, these are the steps I describe, how I sat there waiting and waiting and waiting to get in. But it is still a Kinderheim today. But during World War II and shortly after, this Kinderheim was full of a lot of us biracial babies who were abandoned by our birth mother and up for adoption. All of us lived in the orphanage. That's what a Kinderheim is in Germany, orphanage. And we were advertised in the newspapers, and we were advertised throughout Europe for adoption, and we were advertised in the Afro-Baltimore newspaper in Baltimore, Maryland, in the United States. So I have this actual newspaper. This is me, Uta Shab. I'm holding my little doll. I have met Peter before. And this is my sister, Imgart. And so when the newspaper would come out, they would have different pictures of us, brown babies is what we were called. And they were soliciting for people in Europe and people in the United States to adopt us. Boarding, we board the plane here. What happens in the process is that the orphanages, Kinderheims, were ran by the Catholic Church, of course, with the nuns. And so when someone was interested, they saw our picture, and they would say whether they were interested in adopting us or not. I do talk about in the book the airline, and I did research and got the name of people who worked solely with the orphanages to get us flown to our respective countries. Most brown babies were spread out through Europe and adopted throughout Europe. There were about 600 of us with Mabel Grammer who actually got couples in the United States to adopt us. So this is a picture here of me with Sister Melba, and I talk about all the personnel that were involved. It was pretty extensive. Scandinavian Airline was the airline, and this is in Frankfurt, Germany, at the international airport. And we are fixing to be put onto the plane, handed over to the airline stewardesses who take care of us until we arrive in New York. It'll be the first time in New York that our adopted parents will see us and that we will see them for the first time. And of course, this is my sister Imgart here, Joanne. This is Juanita, who I met later on in life, and this is Juanita and Joe. They are brothers and sisters. They were adopted together by a couple in Pasadena, California. Okay. And of course, I know firsthand how lucky my sister and I were to be adopted by Joe and Marie Fambrough. They were both a couple who, my father was an entrepreneur. My mother was a stay-home mom, but my mom gave us the Christian values. You know, we went to church on Sunday night, Wednesday night, vacation Bible school. She was a Sunday school teacher. And so we got those strong Christian values through my mom and through my dad. And I talk about all the lessons learned from my dad about living in a town which at that time in Bakersfield was one of the centers for the KKK, and how to live in this world and be biracial, how to code switch, how to be a business person. And one of the big things, my dad, who never finished the 8th grade, was a big proponent of education and making sure that we understood the value of being a strong, independent, and educated woman. And so I dearly love them. In spite of having fantastic parents that adopted me, I still had that burning desire, and I talk about that in my book, to find my birth parents. Not to find them to live with them, but to find them, meet them at least once, and be able to say, well, you know, I got my dad's personality, I've got my mom's whatever, and know, just seeing. One of the things that happens to us, which most people don't realize, and us meaning those of us who have been abandoned early in life and adopted by others and don't know our birth parents, is when you are born, you see pictures of your parents on the wall, you see relatives, your grandparents, if they're alive, you have family reunions, you travel, you answer the question, who am I? It's a normal, basic human question that we ask ourselves, who am I? And that was a question that I could not answer. So thank goodness, my daddy and mom are those, my adopted parents who, they were up with me at night and took care of me. They're my mama and daddy. And so when I say that, that's who I'm talking about. My dad, I write about in the book, one day brought a shoebox to me. I'd been asking and asking for information about my birth parents. And this is not the actual shoebox, but it is pretty similar. Take all those pictures out of it and you'll have the box, because the shoebox was big and it was full of my adoption papers and letters and correspondence with the Kinderheim and all of that. They were in German and they were also translated into English. My German birth certificate was in there and all that information was there. So this is the beginning of my research to find both of my birth parents. Going through my adoption papers, and I talk about it in the book how I did find my birth father, and I figured he was the easiest to find because he spoke English. The military keeps excellent records. And so therefore, I not only had his name on my papers, but I also had the last known address and all that information. So I knew that if I found him, my true target was actually finding my birth mother. And so he still spoke German. He lived in, he's a 3-time World War veteran, World War II, Korean War, Vietnam War. And I knew that he would help me to find my birth mother, which he did. And so what he did is put me in contact with Hannah Laura. This is Hannah Laura, her husband, Jacob. Hannah Laura was a teenager when I was with my birth mother, being raised in this small village, which had less than 500 people in it at the time. And Hannah Laura was a teenager, and she and her mother babysat my sister and I. So if you go out this door, there's a door right here, front door to her flat in Germany. She still lives in the same flat. You walk outside, you walk right across the street, you'll see my flat or my house to where I was there for the short 2 years that I lived there. And so Hannah Laura is the one that got me in contact with my birth mother. I write about my experience meeting my birth mother and finding her because for many of us, one of the things that we all have to be prepared for, those of us that are looking for our birth parents, is we have to be prepared for a second rejection. And that's a strong possibility. And I write about that very hurtful piece in regards to my mother and my German sister. But I was glad that I at least had a counselor that I talked to and ran things by. I also read a lot of books, psychology books in regards to abandonment, grief, and loss, which helped to prepare me for any kind of rejection that I might have. That doesn't mean I wasn't hurt by it. That's not what I mean. What I mean, at least it prepared me for the hurt and pain and allowed me then to be able to work through it. So my mother is Elsa Niklasen. My grandfather is Rudolf. He was a German. And my grandmother, who is Elsa's mother, was an Ashkenazi, she still is, she's just dead, an Ashkenazi Jew born in Poland. And I talk about how the Nazis came and took her from the home, and she died in a German concentration camp during World War II. So we've not been able to find any records other than that with Liba is her name. During my years of discovery, because I went to Germany every other year for quite a few years, and I still do. COVID stopped me from going, so I haven't been back to Germany in a couple of years now, unfortunately. I'm hoping to go this summer. But my mother, Elsa, what I discovered is that there are 6 of us. I have 5 other siblings. Of course, I knew about my sister Joanne. She's the one that came to the United States with me and grew up in Bakersfield with me. But I didn't realize that I had an older brother, Hans Jorgen Clausen is actually his name, and he was born during World War II. So I write about him. And this is my sister Helga. She's the one that's sitting in the flat with us. And she's now, of course, a grown woman. And I do write about her extensively and her very public rejection of me. And then discovered that my birth mother, Elsa, had married after she abandoned all 4 of us. And she married and had Reinhard and Jorgen, who I spend a lot of time with when I go to Germany, especially Reinhard. And she stayed married to their father and raised these 2. Okay. So as you research your legacy, as you research family dynamics and that kind of thing, it made me realize, because I used to think that I was the cause of Elsa abandoning me and my sisters, but realized as I did my research and talked to villagers and they were sharing information that actually it wasn't about me. It was about my birth mother and how she handled tough situations when they came her way. One of the things that I do talk about is the internet and how the internet allows you to access the world. And so having DNA, 23andMe, doing ancestry DNA, family tree DNA. There's actually a site for African DNA, which really pinpoints more specifically. If you do your DNA on this site, will pinpoint more specifically the tribe, and might be a tribe or whomever in Africa, groups and countries that you may belong to through DNA. Another way to access the world and your legacy and looking at things is through Facebook, through Twitter, Instagram, Google Images, looking for people and places. One of my things that I use an awful lot is Google Earth. I will get an address like I did for Germany, and I Google it, and you actually can stand in front of houses and stand in front of hotels. You can stand in front of a lot of stuff. And Google Earth, I use an awful lot in researching, and also looking to see, when you look at records, does that house still exist, or is it now a vacant lot? Well, you don't have to spend your money to travel there. You could very well Google Earth by use Google Earth to use the address to see if that actually is still there, the structure. I do talk about in my presentation about genealogy, and please, if you have any questions, just put them in the chat. We'll go through this. But what I did when I was writing my memoir was really thinking about, maybe I should write this down, because in the beginning, searching for my birth parents, I had no intentions of doing any genealogy other than finding them, and no intentions of writing anything. But as my story became fairly unique, and I realized that, well, maybe I need to write something down to pass on to my family. And so in genealogy, you can certainly research on the internet, because we have the internet now. When I began, there was no internet. I found my birth father in 1981, and I went to visit my birth mother in Germany in 1986. So I was, the internet only added to my research as continued to research throughout my life. Verifying my information, the book that I wrote in the memoir, I verified my information 2-3 times. And if it was a negative kind of connotation, such as some things were talked about my birth mother, I don't want to publish something that doesn't shine a positive light on someone unless I have verified it. And so I can assure you that what I wrote in my memoir has been verified more than once or twice. And I wanted to be prepared in my life and prepared to write about the good, the bad, the ugly, but I wanted to write about the truth in regards to my situation. And I'm truly blessed. I'm truly blessed to have been given up. I'm truly blessed to have been adopted by great parents and have had the growing up and the life experiences I've had. So I look in that chapter of forgiveness, love, forgiveness, and healing. I truly am at peace with my birth mother and the things she did. I am glad that I came to America. In genealogy, these are, and you're certainly welcome to take a picture if you're interested in any genealogy, but these are some great internet websites that you can use when you are researching your family tree. Right now, I'm still trying to find what German concentration camp Liba, my grandmother, died in. So I'm using some of the Jewish sites, and I'm just about ready to say, I'm going to pay somebody to do this because I'm running into a lot of stone walls, and I do want to get at it. But a lot of these sites are, reason I put some of this information on the side is they have a lot of information, but what I did here on this screen is focused in on what these particular sites, each of them focus in on. Ancestry, reading through historical records is really what cues in for ancestry.com. But yet, if you go to the Jewish genealogy site, they have extensive records, especially on the Holocaust. And so that I'm interested in regards to World War II, of course, being with the Jews and the Nazi and her being taken away in that truck like that. I want to find out if there's some records, because the Germans kept great records in their concentration camps. There is also slave genealogy, and actually I've been online with some classes that they've given. I think they're pretty doggone interesting. And so these are some resources, because all of us who have African ancestry in our history will certainly come across slavery and slave throughout the generations. And so these are some good websites. And of course, I repeated the African DNA, that when you give your DNA, the results comes online. So you have your own personal password and all of that that's given to you that you get to see. Okay. Freedmen's Bureau records, I never thought they were that good, but after I took this class, I learned how to work them a little bit better. And the slave narratives, there's hundreds of slave narratives. So looking through this, it does take a lot to look for your ancestry. It does take a lot if you're into genealogy, which means you're really going way back to as far back as you can in your life and your stories that make you who you are today. Tips on writing. You may or may not be interested in writing your book, but who knows? You may be writing a book and it may not even be involved with genealogy. But once I decided that I was going to write my memoir, mainly for me to heal, but also for my kids, I began doing research in regards to what needs to happen. And so I began just writing random thoughts that I had down, and no kind of organized manner other than to complete my thought and think about. And an example of that is the rejection that I had from my older sister Helga in Germany when I was visiting one time in public at an event. It was very hurtful and painful to me. And so when I left the place, I pulled over. I was driving on the Autobahn, which, in Germany doesn't have any speed limits. So I was really having a good time. But I pulled over because I was really upset. And I pulled over, and at first I started thinking, well, maybe I was crying. And so I sat there, and then rather than writing, I also carried a small little recorder with me. And so I recorded my thoughts just bubbling out in no particular form. But after returning back to the United States, because I'd spent 30 days there, coming back to the United States, I was able to listen to the recording, and I was able to put down and in a positive manner, express how emotional I was and how I felt. And that's how I began writing, as listening to what I was saying randomly and then putting it together in a concise form. Another way to write is to also get examples. That doesn't mean you plagiarize somebody's writing, but the description I give in regards to the forest where I visited is looking at examples and saying, that's a pretty good description. And how do I get that feeling and emotion and all of that in my book? And so hiring a flow editor, all of that is a part of writing and publishing. And the other part is being a self-publisher. Either you self-publish or you hire a publisher. And I'm not recommending one way or another. That has to be in your cards to determine. But I did self-publish my book, and I do market it on my own. The reason I did that is because I was told that the title of my book, that usually racial books don't go very far, but I told the publisher I wasn't changing the title of my book, I wasn't changing the picture of my book, and I wanted full autonomy, so I just decided to publish it myself, and I'm glad I did. My legacy is my sons, Chris and Chad, and they grew up in Bakersfield. They graduated from West High School. They live up here in Northern California where I do. I live in Sacramento. Actually, I live in Elk Grove, but it's right next to Sacramento. And Chris lives in San Jose, and Chad lives in Redwood City. So we are only 2 hours away from each other. I've never lived any further than 2 hours away from my sons. Chris has 2 boys, and Chad has 2 sons. So I'm the mother of 2 sons and the nana of 4 grandsons. I guess the Lord said I just needed to have boys. So I wrote the book for them. And so what I did with the book is when it was all completed and I was almost ready to hit the publishing button, I sent an electronic copy to both of my sons and my sister Joanne and said, you guys have 2 weeks to read it. I want to publish it. And I published it on my birthday, which is October 1st, 2019. So I wanted them to read it, or at least have the opportunity to read it, so that when I hit the publishing button and people began reading the book, that they had no surprises, and that also I could answer any questions that they might have. And it was really surprising how interested they were in my life, because I really never talked to them about being adopted ever. I just never bothered. Not that they didn't know, they knew I was adopted, but it just wasn't a part of the conversation. It was more about them and growing up and the values they need to have and the education they need to have. So I didn't realize how little I had shared with them of me and being adopted. So it was really a great opener for all 3 of us. My legacy passes on to my grandsons. Matt, this is at his graduation in Willamette, Oregon. He graduated from the university there with a master's in business. This is my grandson, Chad, who is sophomore at St. Mary's College now. And this is little Caden. He's just turned 4, and he's a little older now, but he's gonna be 2 now. I have to get an updated picture of him. But what I wanted to do is to make sure that instead of just passing around your story and your memoir verbally, that when I'm gone, there isn't any question about my legacy. They can go to my book and hear it in my own words versus asking questions. And so to me, it was important to pass that down and have it accurate, I guess you'd say. And so I live for these guys with my legacy. And so my book is on Amazon. It's on Ingram Sparks, and it's available at local bookstores. And I understand my cousin Eric Fambrough called me and said that Barnes and Noble in Bakersfield has the book. So I was glad to see that. Actually, I was going to do a book signing with them, but COVID came along, and so we had to cancel. So, but that's a part of my story. And what I want to do is maybe just have a conversation that maybe you guys may have some questions in regards to my book.
Awesome.
That was wonderful.
So should I stop the sharing? Okay, so. All right, so are there any questions, or we can just talk, have a conversation? Oh, my video's off. Hang on. Okay, sorry.
Here we are.
I hope that wasn't off the whole time, because that was crazy. I'm sorry.
I wanted to ask about your sister, Joanne.
Yes.
What was her involvement in the process? Was she as interested in you in finding out about her mom, your mom, and any siblings, or not really?
You know, her involvement was 0. And she did not want to be involved in any way. I did send her the book before I published it because I felt like I needed to. You'll notice that I didn't really talk a lot about her. I mentioned her in the orphanage.
Right.
And how she was just really great and took such good care of me in the orphanage. But Joanne, I was 2 and Joanne was 5 and Helga was 8, because after Joanne and I were abandoned, my birth mother abandoned Helga as well in Germany. So Joanne remembers a lot. So she has a lot of pain. And I didn't remember much of anything. I was 2. And so I had to do much harder research. So she did not contribute anything, and that was okay. I'm okay with that.
Judy, are you in
close?
That was my question.
I'm sorry, what? I didn't hear the question.
Are you guys still close?
Yes, we are. Yes. And Joanne knew that I was going to write the book because I told her ahead of time. And I told her she was welcome to contribute to the book if she wanted to. I would love for her to. But again, it brought up too many painful memories. She and I talk about every other week. She lives in Houston. So this book did not come between us. Okay. And I did tell her that I was not going to talk about any of her, anything about her. The book was really about me and the healing. The good part that came from the book with Joanne is that it took her about 2 years to read the book because it brought back some memories, but she did talk to me a little bit, but not much. But what she did tell me is that she really loved the book, that she learned a lot from the book. And so I felt good about that piece, you know. So.
Right.
I'd like to, go ahead.
Go, Jean.
I'd like to ask you a question about your dad's brother, Larry. I knew a Larry, I guess because I'm the oldest thing sitting in here. I knew a Larry Fambrough. And did they live here in Bakersfield and have sisters, Donna or Marilyn? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And
Now,
also,
Larry Fambrough is not my dad's brother. In
okay.
fact, Larry just died. And in fact, I
Yes.
just talked to Shelley. She called me because we're having his memorial service. And so she was giving me the date. But Larry and Stephen Fambrough, and their father was my father's brother.
Okay.
And we grew up together on 2nd Street.
Right.
Joe Fambrough was my dad, and Buddy or Lawrence Fambrough was Larry's. And Larry just died a couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
Yeah. And Donna and Ramona are his half brother and sisters, you know.
And Marilyn?
Marilyn too, yeah. Marilyn and Donna have a different mother than Larry and Stephen.
Okay, because
Fambrough.
I went to school.
But they are, you know, they're sisters and brothers, but I'm just saying that's the split there.
Nice family.
Yes. Did you know Larry?
I knew him. I knew Donna, Marilyn, Ramona. Yes. We went to school together.
Wow.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yes. And then Judy, I knew Larry very well. He was a friend of my family's, and my sister used to babysit for Eric and Shelley. And I remember when he was married to Mary.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Larry and my mother worked with each other at Shell Oil Company.
Wow.
Oh,
Years ago.
okay.
Yes. Yes. And Pam just told me that he
wonderful.
recently died. I wasn't aware of that. So I was sorry to hear it, but happy that I knew.
Yes.
Yes. Judy, I'd like to say,
I was.
oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to, no, you can finish your thought on that. I was going to ask you something regarding your book.
No, go ahead, because
Okay.
I don't remember now.
Okay. I wanted to say that the book was a page turner for me. The story, oh my goodness, it just tugs at your heart. You know, I can just see you the day that, you know, you're at the church and, you know, you're playing in the parking lot and your lives forever shift. It's like, oh my, so many things were just heartbreaking, but what a blessing your neighbors were who babysat you. And it's so interesting how her daughter just, you know, didn't have the same affinity and the same love. And people's experiences are different, but you know, their mother, oh my goodness, it's like they never saw you again. And then it's like, you know, you're looking at the mother, it's like, what did you do with these children? And then she abandoned the 8-year-old. It's like, oh my goodness, it's like, you know, it's like you keep having these babies and things happen and you keep leaving them. And it's like you're leaving scars each time. But, you know, she had her own pains, but I applaud you for writing that. And it was nice hearing that you're leaving a legacy for your family, because, you know, a lot of times we don't think to ask our parents all these details until they're gone. And then it's like, oh, wow, I wish I had known this. You wrote it all down. And it's a beautifully told story that, you know, we hurt for you, but the saving grace, oh my gosh, it's like God blessed you and Joanna so much with Joe and his wife. What they gave to the two of you, it's like, that's love extraordinary.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And thank you so much for that. You know, the first time I went to Germany way back when, the villagers ran out, the German villagers ran out and literally into the street, because I was standing in the street in front of our flat, and Uta, Irmgard, Uta, and, you know, they hugged us and I really, it just made me feel so good. However, I do have to say that when I got on the plane to come back to the United States, I said, thank you, God, for Mama and Daddy adopting us and bringing us to the United States. I don't think that Joanne and I would have had the opportunities in Germany and especially not me being brown skinned, and not Nazism was still, even after World War II, was still pretty pervasive. And so, you know, I believe truly blessed to those experiences, as I reflect on them, just made me a better person. And my dad and mom, especially my dad, made the hardcore piece of, he'd say, Judy, you focus, you don't give up, you get your education. And I, you know, as parent tapes just play. And I had to talk about those in my book, because I truly am blessed, truly blessed by them.
Yes.
That's mama and daddy. Nobody else has taken their place.
No.
And your mom and dad, it's like they were really ahead of their time when you think about adopting children from another country. I mean, that's so common now, but back then that was unheard of, particularly in the Black community.
Yes. Being able to do that.
Yes.
The finances.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, you know, it's a unique time. It's so funny because the book I'm writing now is about living in America and being biracial. And, you know, it's so different. It's interesting because as I think way back, you know, of course, I write about them burning that KKK cross on my parents' front lawn on 2nd Street. You know, that was an all-white neighborhood. And when you go back to Bakersfield now, it's predominantly Hispanic. And sprinkles of African American through there. And I say that because times change, neighborhoods change, attitudes change. There's so many biracial kids nowadays, nobody even looks twice. Whereas in my time, we were very unique to Bakersfield. In fact, the television companies wanted us on commercials and all that. And my dad said, nope, we ain't doing none of that, which I'm grateful that, you know, he didn't put us on display and stuff, you know, we were able to have a normal life, and that I'm grateful for that.
Right. Are there any in the picture when you're coming to America as children, and it was you, Imgart, Peter, and a couple of others, are you in communication with any of them?
You know, I am. Juanita, not Joe. In fact, I think Joe died, but Juanita, she's on my Facebook page. And as I published my book, I have quite a few brown babies who are not, we're adults, of course. But yes, there's actually an organization. And there's also an organization in Germany, which I'm not a part of, but they're brown babies that were adopted throughout Europe, have band together meaning organized together and see each other. But yes, Peter Grammer, Mrs. Grammer was the one instrumental in getting us adopted. I talk to Peter periodically, and there are a couple others that have written a book, their own story. Unfortunately, their outcome wasn't as good as Joanne and I, but yes, I do. And everybody's got a story to tell.
Okay, beautiful.
Yeah.
Awesome. Tammy, any comments?
Are any of you looking to write anything? You guys are reading books now. Anybody going to write one?
Yes.
Cindy, you're going to write one?
Yes, I have one in the works right now.
What's it about?
It is a compilation of quotes and stories and scriptures, and it is with the publisher right now as we speak.
Yay!
Oh, wow.
Yes.
That's
wonderful. Please email me. Let me know.
I shall. Hopefully before the end of the year, it's all wrapped up and it's available on Amazon.
Oh, wow.
Wonderful.
Yes.
That is so awesome.
Yes. Thank you.
It is awesome. You know, I truly am at peace having written this book. And so my attitude was, if nobody else doesn't read this book, I have really helped my soul, you know,
Right.
But it seems, you know, with abandonment isn't just about adoption. It can be being abandoned through divorce, abandoned through parents who may not necessarily love you and still there. Because I've met, what I miss is I was really doing a lot of book signings personal. And so I had so many people come up and talk about their experiences, not necessarily adoption, but I'm also surprised at the number of people that have been adopted. You know, I didn't realize it was a big group. So,
Wow.
and by the way, I want to share with all of you, please, one thing, please, if you've read my book or will read it, hopefully, that you'll put a review on Amazon. And the other is, if you'd like to put your book, if you put your hard copy book together and just mail it to me, I'd be happy to sign your book. I did this with another book club, and they were actually back east here. And I'll sign each one of them and put them back and mail them back to you, okay?
Oh, what a beautiful
and
offer.
if you
Thank
just
you.
put them all in one little package, then that way we have them, I have them all. And then I just sign it, put your name, and send it back, okay? And you can distribute it out.
That sounds good.
Awesome. Thank you.
Be
Because
happy to
we
do
all
that,
read it.
ladies.
Yes.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, I'd be happy to sign it. With this COVID and stuff, it's just been a bit different, but also it's given me opportunity to be in Alabama, Mississippi, all over. So it's been kind of cool. And I can sit in a nice top and shorts.
You could have on your pajama bottoms and nobody knows. All
Hey,
Pam,
all that
it's
matters
on
is my
yourself.
top's looking good.
That's right.
That's right.
And your hair is combed.
Their hair's cool, yes.
Yes.
Exactly. Anyone else like to share anything with Judy or share any thoughts about the book?
I was going to ask, the Mr. Bond that your dad had buy properties and then turned the deeds.
Yes.
Together. Is he still living? Was he a realtor here in town at that time, or what was his?
No, Wayne Vaughn, actually, he was one of the first persons at my parents' house that met us when we arrived from Germany, from New York.
Okay.
And so they were business partners as well as friends. He is dead. He died after my father, years later, because he was at the funeral.
Okay.
His son, I've talked to through Facebook. His son is Wayne Vaughn Jr., and he is a developer, and Wayne was that way, like my dad, would take land and develop the land and build homes. And that's what Wayne has, his legacy to his kids is they do that as well. But he's deceased now.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
You know, Kurt Carter, Wayne Vaughn, that group in there were the ones that were doing houses together.
Okay.
Clifford Strait. Do you remember Clifford Strait, Sr.?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, because Clifford Strait and my dad, Clifford was over our house a lot. I can remember his son, Clifford Strait Jr., lives in Guatemala or some Hispanic Mexican place. I think it's Guatemala. But anyway, he's on, he texts once in a while. We keep up with each other. He's married and has some kids. So it's kind of a group, you know, that growing up with some of my dad's business partners and their kids, we stay in touch.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, is Hannah Laura still in the Beehive Village?
I'm sorry, what?
Is Hannah Laura still in the Beehive Village, her family?
Yes, she is. Yes, she is. In fact, that picture of her, was a recent one. Yes, she is. And I'm a little worried because I haven't been able to go back there. She turned, August 1st is her birthday. So she turned 82, but her husband isn't well. So I'm hoping that, that I will be able to go back this summer to, when I go to Germany, I stay in Frankfurt and I rent I have a hotel for the whole month, but then I leave Frankfurt and drive to my village, which is about 45 minutes away. And I spend some time with Hannelore and her husband, time meaning that she wants me to stay and spend the night or so. So I stay a few days in the village. And I love Hannelore. I love her to death. But that village does not have any Wi-Fi. So I need to get back to Wi-Fi.
Wow.
So I go back to Frankfurt and hang out with my brothers, and then I go back to the village. I have to go in drifts. They may have Wi-Fi by now, but they didn't.
Wow.
But yes, I love her dearly, and she is such a mom to me that she watches over me and makes sure that, you know, I have my tea and my and all that. So it's kind of cool to be with her.
Yeah.
It's neat.
Now, Judy, your brothers who were actually raised by your mother, do their experiences were much better with her? So would you say they have really positive feelings in terms of, you know, not trauma from her brokenness?
You know, she was very abusive to my brother Reinhardt.
That's right.
But to Jorgen, Reinhardt's the one I showed you that her son, she was abusive to him. He left when he was a teenager, but I didn't write about his thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
She was better with the baby Jorgen.
Yes.
She was better with them, but they well, their attitude about her, Reinhardt has baggage from it.
Okay.
But Jorgen says, well, she loved me, but, you know, so she wasn't a real affectionate. They said she wasn't a very affectionate person, and they didn't get hugs or kisses from her.
Mhm.
So, you know, that kind of goes along with that treatment she had for Joanne and for Helga. And I was probably just too young to get any abuse at that time because I was just too young. But had I still stayed there, I'm quite sure I would have gotten the same thing.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah. So she, you know, as I say in the book, you know, she learned to, when hard times came, she just abandoned and started a new life. And so that's what she did with all of us, is just left.
Right. If I remember correctly, in the book, I had read it in the summer, wasn't there a gentleman that she really cared for? And I think, if I remember correctly, it was like the one that you're thinking she loved, but then he abandoned her because he was a German soldier, right? And she was Jewish, so that was the reason. And then probably because that was hurtful, then every other relationship she had after that, it was like maybe just one of convenience to get what she could, but she never connected.
Well, it goes back further, as I write in the book, because she was abandoned.
Yes, correct. Right. Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
And so when Liba, who her grandmother was taken to the concentration camp, which of course she was not willing, but it's still mother's gone, abandonment. And then you have her coming home from school, and my grandfather, her father, Rudolph,
right,
totally gone, never saw him ever again. So she had that example that I think really shook her, and it would shake anybody. You're, a teenager coming home expecting at least one of your parents to be there, and and it's not funny, and here, no money, nothing, just abandoned. I mean, that's a tough situation. So it started way back. I thought it was interesting she would fall in love with a Nazi German soldier, because out of that was the Hans Jorgen, the one that the silhouette.
yeah,
He was the one that refused to see me and talk to me.
Right.
Yeah, that's how that came about. So she began that, pattern. And that's why I put in the book the chapter on love and forgiveness and healing. For me, forgiveness is not about forgetting. I have certainly not
Correct.
forgotten, but it's about not allowing someone that has hurt you to take over your whole life.
Right.
And that to me is for me is forgiveness. Unfortunately, with Joanne, she's allowed this to have taken over her life. I live with my glass half full. I don't live with my glass half empty. I'm not going to allow anyone to control me that way in my happiness.
Correct. Amen.
Okay.
Because then
So
you're giving them power over you. And some of us are able
absolutely,
to
I'm
do
giving
that easier than others, personality wise, or maybe what we've learned. And some people have a more difficult time doing that.
True.
yes, they do, and I don't judge them for it. I think
Right.
that
Right.
for a lot of people, for me, I did need help, and so having the counselor, a non-biased person who I could talk to and talk things out was extremely important to me, because I did not feel like I could just do it by myself.
Right.
And so that was nice to have a counselor do that.
Right.
And I
Yeah.
think that's a lot in regards to how someone overcomes a trauma, how they deal with it. Sometimes
True.
Yes.
people get the help that they need, and
There
others
she
think
is.
that that's a sign of weakness, and they don't ever reach out and get the help that they could possibly get,
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I do. Yeah, and I don't judge anybody for it. I mean, we all have
Right.
our own journey to take.
Yeah.
So when I wrote the book and when I'm talking even now, I'm really talking about me, and I have no judgment about others, because I think it's it's just about me and how I view life. And this is how I want to view it. My little sister, Tammy, she's not little, but she is younger than I am. And she says, Judy, you live with rose-colored glasses. You're always thinking everybody's so nice. And I said, I want to live with my rose-colored glasses,
Yes.
because I don't want to always be worried, about, thinking about people being evil. I'm not going to do that.
Right.
If you prove yourself evil to me, then I'm wake up. But other than that, I think everybody's, a good person till then.
Right.
Amen. Awesome. This has absolutely been lovely. How about we end, and Allison, you missed a treat.
Oh, we
Allison
missed
was
it.
celebrating her sister's 21st wedding anniversary, and Allison is Judy's
Awesome, Allison.
daughter, Judy. So that's mother and daughter right there. Yes. So why don't we
Oh,
go
wonderful.
around? Yes. Why don't we go around, and everyone, we want to leave you with something that touched us in terms of what you shared with us. So why don't we all think for a second?
Okay.
We want to give a departing blessing to Judy. How's that? And I just came up with this too. So I'll go. Does anybody want to go first? If not, I'll let you think longer and then I'll go.
I'll go first, Cindy.
Okay, go for it, Allison.
It was just the forgiveness in her heart. That was just amazing, because it's like she ran to a lot of different roadblocks, and for her to say, I'm not gonna let that stop me from doing anything. And I'm gonna put all that behind me, and I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna have love in my heart. That was just amazing. I need to do that more. So I got a lot of that from that book, and I really liked it. I thought it was really, really good. Sorry, I was late, you guys.
That's okay.
That's okay.
That's
Thank
what
you,
I got out of it.
Allison.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have to say I was inspired. It made me, for one, I love looking at my own genealogy and different things, but the way you put everything was you kind of said, this is what it is, but it was about you and your journey through, I guess, like you said, through a healing. And I really appreciated your positiveness, even when you were rejected. And I know that had to have been so hurtful, and even trying to even use your sister against you, and even Hannah Laura, it was that you had so much grace in how you handled it, and it just made me appreciate that. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Melanie. Thank you.
You know what my feel-good thing was about when you were 2 years old? It seems like that little girl traveled all these years, still in the same grown woman. And I don't know, it just made me feel so good. I keep thinking back as a little kid running through the street, jumping in puddles. And it's like you're having so much fun. And that made that, as in the Grinch, it says, my heart grew 10 times larger. That's how I felt when I thought about you as a 2-year-old. You were just happy because you didn't know, but you learned and you just carried it with you.
Oh, right.
You like that.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you. I'd never thought of it that way.
Amen.
Thank you.
I'll go next. I just thought sitting here, it's like your book was like a beautifully woven tapestry, and there were threads of innocence, threads of ignorance, threads of beauty, threads of pain, threads of rejection, threads of healing, and all woven together so beautifully. And look what we have. A beautiful woman of light. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Oh, thank you so much, Cindy. That's
You're
precious.
welcome,
Thank
Judy.
you. Thank you.
I just think, Judy, that the book was so inspiring. You did not let it define you. You have risen above that to have just shine, like, let your light so shine, like this little light of mine in church. Remember that?
Oh, I love that song.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about you. It's like this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. You know, and it inspires me. I have a son, he lives in Georgia, keeps telling me, Mom, you need to do videos every day about your life so I can have them. And I'm like, a video every day about my life? But now I see from this the legacy and what I should be doing. I should probably be listening to him. But I just think it's a wonderful story, and just everyone should read it. Because
thank you, Pam.
An example of, you know, what can be done if we don't let our minds take control of what has happened and we live in the present.
Yes. Absolutely. Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
So Tammy, and how about we end with you, Sharon?
Okay. Well, I just thought, Judy, that you were incredibly brave to take this journey on. It was such an inspiration to read your story. And I thought it was wonderful that you gave so many people the opportunity to reconnect in your family. And I think you've given, you've gained a lot from the people that you've met along the way, and reconnecting with your father, your biological father, and your other relatives. I thought that was just really fabulous. I was shocked at about the situation with Helga.
Yeah.
But everybody has their own ideas about stuff. So I thought that was really sad that it worked out that way. But it seems that you've gained an awful lot along making this journey, and I think that I applaud you that you took that on.
Thank you.
Beautifully said, Tammy.
Yes, thank you very much.
I really enjoyed your book, and I think the thing that stood out for me was grace in your forgiving heart. Because I have an adoption story, and there's a lot of things that happen to you in your life that are similar to things that happened to me. And you were, I think, a lot more graceful and forgiving quicker than I allowed myself to be. So you're a very good role model and example. So I thank you for that.
Oh, thank you, Sharon. And, if you ever want to talk or anything, please contact me, okay?
I will.
I'd be happy to listen and to talk. And I want to emphasize that I don't judge anyone else, because we all have our own journey to make.
That's right.
So that is certainly okay. In fact, I'm here on the East Coast because I just came from my pop's memorial. He died. And yeah, so we just buried him with military honors Monday. And he is at Washington Cross National Military Cemetery here in Pennsylvania. So that's the reason I'm back here. Otherwise, I'd be in California. But hit me up on Facebook, or you can look at it because I did post pictures of his memorial and stuff. But Tammy, you're absolutely right. And then I also gained a family, even on although I didn't talk a lot about my birth father, I had a great relationship with him and with his 4 kids. And they've accepted me and gained a new family with their kids and their grandkids. And it's been just really wonderful, a great gift from both sides. And sure, there is rejection, but I don't dwell on that. I'm dwelling on what God has given me and the gifts.
Amen.
Awesome. Oh my goodness, ladies, this was absolutely fabulous. And Judy, we thank you.